Post from deleted. What was your creepy unexplained experience as a child? Comment from deleted. Deleted. Comment from Diamond Eyes 7. When I was a child, my grandparents' house always creeped me out. I was terrified of the basement, and there was something off about the rest of the house. Once when I was 10, my mom and I were sleeping in my grandpa's bed. I couldn't sleep and I was facing the middle of the bed, so the back of my head was near the space between the bed and the wall window. All of a sudden, I feel something poke the back of my head twice. I was petrified and froze, so I never turned my head to see what was poking me. To this day I don't know what could have happened, but I can still feel those pokes. Comment from deleted. It was late-ish at night and I heard a car crash outside my house. For some reason I had a gut feeling of who it was and told my parents. And I was right. It was a friend of the family that I had only met once years and years ago, and did not even live close to us. I have no idea if it was something more than being just the hugest coincidence guess in the world. Comment from deleted. Deleted. Comment from deleted. From 5 to 6 years old, I would see a shadow figure, perfect human woman shape, walk the walls in the night, back and forth. It really creeped me out that I would just put the covers over my head. I was an only child and my parents were in their bedroom. It was when I was still wide awake, way before I got sleepy. So creepy. Comment from deleted. My mom put me to bed in my room, but I woke up downstairs. I thought it was a dream, but some man picked me up when I was almost asleep, carried me downstairs and put me down on some blankets between a sofa and chair. I was quite young, so my parents still had a safety gate. My dad wasn't in, worked nights then, and my mom was asleep, so no one knows how I managed to get downstairs. I can still remember this now, strangely. Comment from spiderlanewales. Haven't told this one in a while. I was young, 5 to 7, somewhere in there. I was sleeping in between my parents for whatever reason. I woke up. I remember the clock reading around 4 a.m. There was something standing by the window, looking out into the front yard. It looked like a man in a brown wool robe, about 6 feet 4 inches or so. I started to stir and sat up in bed, and the thing turned and looked at me. Dear God, that face, extremely pale white skin, lots of really pronounced wrinkles, and the face drooped like it was melting down into a really pointy chin, almost similar to a scream mask but with all of the features of a living being. Its mouth was hanging open and its eyes were wide, almost like it was worried or frightened. It kept its gaze on me while it moved away from the window, in front of the bed, and out the open bedroom door. The second it exited the room, the lights turned on their own and both of my parents jumped up on either side of me, breathing heavily like they'd both just woken up from a nightmare. To be clear, I was fully able to move during this. I don't think it was sleep paralysis, but I'm not sure what it could have been other than some kind of demon or really fucking ugly ghost. I've never seen it since, but I can still picture it clear as day. Comment from not_a_good_gardener. I was out at our cabin in the remote mountainous wilderness of Colorado with my dad, and had to use the bathroom in the middle of the night. This necessitated a flashlight and shoes, because the outhouse was far away. There was no one but me and my dad for miles in any direction. So I thought. I suddenly heard voices in the distance and stopped in my tracks. It seemed to be coming from my right, deep in the woods in the middle of nowhere, a quarter of a mile from the road. Being 11 and unafraid of the world, I foolishly yelled, "Who's out there?" There was silence for a few seconds, then a shouted string of profanity so vulgar it terrified my virgin ears. I stood stock still for a moment like a terrified rabbit but heard nothing else. So I ran back to the house and woke my dad up. He got up, loaded his gun, and turned all the lights on. But we never heard another sound. To this day, we have not seen or heard another person within 15 miles of the cabin. Edit. Typo. Comment from BreadBaron. I bought a few small things from an estate sale once when I was 9 or so, and I swear I would find them rotated slightly 30 degrees, 45 degrees every now and again. Comment from deleted. My house phone rang and a man's friendly voice is on the phone. I was 8 at the time. "Hello, hi there, how are you?" "Good, do you like toys?" "Yes, do you want to play with some?" "Yay, I guess, you can come over. I have lots of nice toys you can play with." I don't think I can. Quote. Hangs up. Never told anyone about it and didn't realize how creepy that it was until years later when I saw a Sister episode about a pedophile. God knows what that man had planned had I said yes. God knows if another child ever said yes to him. Fuck, I'm getting creeped out and feeling dread more than 20 years later. Comment from deleted. I grew up on the central coast of California, and my family would frequently visit Big Sur for camping, hiking, or just hanging out and having lunch at one of the restaurants. I must have been about 7, old enough to visit the bathroom independently, but still rather new to the freedom of walking around somewhere that wasn't my neighborhood or the woods alone. I went into the bathroom at a restaurant called the River Inn, and there were 3 stalls, 1 handicapped, and 2 regular. All but one of the stalls, a regular one, were taken. I distinctly remember looking under the doors for feet, because I was a little kid, and for whatever reason preferred the handicapped stall. I saw no feet, but the doors were locked. Whatever. I went into the one open stall. There was a huge fucking squid in the toilet. Like, the body had to be at least a foot long, plus tentacles, coiled around the inside of the toilet bowl. It totally filled the available space. Cloudy dead squid eyes, gazing up at me from the pooper. I ran out of the bathroom in horror, told nobody, and held my pee for the 45 minutes drive home. What the fuck was that squid doing there? All I can surmise is it was a line cook prank, in an area that ubiquitously has squid on the menu. 25 years later, that terror toilet squid still haunts me. Comment from deleted. Deleted. Comment from HighlandValley. Someone left a voicemail on my home phone saying, "Bad things happen," my mother's first name. But it's okay. That was the whole message. This was right around the time of my parents' divorce and scared the shit out of my siblings and I. I'm guessing it was a friend of my mom calling to comfort her and just did it awkwardly. Scary shit to a 6-year-old. Comment from millennialist. I was young, maybe 8. Just so you know, I always go to sleep in my bed and I'd never, ever fall asleep on the couch. My grandpa died and we got back from his funeral. That night I went to bed, in my room as usual, but I woke up in the middle of the night on the living room couch. When I looked up, I saw my grandpa's ghost. It wasn't scary or anything. At the time it felt natural. He didn't say anything, but there was this understanding between us. I went back to my room and went back to sleep. I would have assumed it was a dream, but it was so vivid and real that it stuck with me for years, especially since I woke up on the couch, which made the moment stick out even more in my mind. It wasn't even a "I saw a ghost" moment. It was just a weird vivid memory that seemed so normal at the time that I didn't think anything strange of it. When I was about 20 I told my mom that story and she said, "Was it the day of his funeral? Because I saw his ghost that night too." That fucked my shit up. Edit. Typos. Comment from Necronic. About 6 years old at the time and we were at an old cemetery where my mom was trying to find an old grave of a relative. She couldn't remember where the gravestone was and was standing still on looking around. While she was standing there, I suddenly felt compelled to run off in a certain direction. I kept running among the headstones until the feeling to stop came over me. I came to a stop in front of a headstone and looked at it to find that it was the headstone of the person my mom was looking for. Comment from deleted. I was laying on my bedroom floor, just sleep over things, and looking out my open door into the hallway. There aren't any windows in the hall or in nearby rooms that could cast a shadow out into that part of the hallway, but I saw the shadow of someone walking into the bathroom. I figured it was my cousin, but then they came up the stairs, down the hall and into my room. I totally flipped out and we couldn't figure out where the shadow came from. Comment from mdnightwriter. When I was little, I had one of those Minnie Mouse plushes, with the cute costume and the big open-mouthed grin. I even had a studio portrait taken with it that turned out beautifully. Well, I woke up one morning, and was just lying in my bed, looking over the edge of my bed at my toys scattered on the ground. All of a sudden, as I was looking at my mini doll, it started talking. It made almost a hissing noise. Then it started whispering my name. Frozen. I watched as the doll's open mouth slowly shut. I ran out of the room as fast as my little feet would carry me. My parents dismissed it as my imagination, until I showed them the doll's permanently closed mouth. We went back and looked at the studio portrait. That doll's mouth had been open. It would not come apart now no matter how hard we pulled. I don't know what happened. Maybe I'll never know, but I didn't touch that doll again. It wasn't as friendly looking with a closed mouth. Edit. Lots of you are asking to see the studio portrait. It's at my mother's house. I'll have to stop by and get it. Hang in there. Comment from RoyalDeLuxe. I was about 7 and my brother was 13 and we still shared a room. I was always afraid of the dark when I was a kid. Periodically I would wake up in the night and call for Mom to come and turn on the hall light to be used as a night light. Much to the enjoyment of my brother. One night in the middle of winter I woke up and right before I called out for Mom I noticed there was a man on the deck that was on the other side of the wall from our bedroom. I froze. I was totally freaked and tried to scream. But I could only make this high-pitched squeaking sound. The only thing I could do was cry. After what seemed like hours my dad heard me and came in to see what was wrong. The man was gone of course when I told him and he blew it off as a nightmare until my brother, from under his covers, said that he saw it too. With that my dad went outside with the shotgun. There were footprints in the snow outside our window and the window of my parents' bedroom. That one took a while to recover from. Comment from Lefty_Leftfield. I grew up in rural Scotland in the 80s and 90s. Think 50 kids total in my entire primary school. Rural. There were only 4 kids in my year. One being me, so only 3 classmates. I was told that before we moved into the house I grew up in. The previous owner died of old age in our living room and they lived in my bedroom before that. There was some kind of raised wooden floor built for them to die on with a bed that was taken out when we got there. 2 spooky for me events as follows. I don't remember this but my mom claims she couldn't find me when I was a toddler and later found me in a closed drawer in my room. No idea how I got in there and no idea how it was closed. I have a distant memory of seeing a dog-like ghost running in place in broad daylight in our living room. Mom had me hide behind the couch with her suddenly because the coal man was here to collect money we owed him. We were extremely poor and had a coal fire to keep us warm in winter, but I didn't know why we were hiding at first. I peeked into the living room from behind the couch and saw what was like a standing shadow, but it was made of light running on the spot in front of the fireplace. It was like a dog running really quickly, but it was running in place and suddenly switching side to side every few seconds like it's glitching out. I thought that was why Mom had made me hide behind the couch. I got scared and went and stopped looking into the living room. Hiding behind the couch fully again. It stuck with me as a WTF was that I saw moment, but seeing as I was barely primary school age back then I can't really give it any real weight as paranormal evidence to myself. My room had a lot of things fall over in it that shouldn't and never with anyone there to do it. Every now and then we'd hear a loud bang come from my upstairs room while we were all downstairs and something had fallen over. Usually small things like books, games, etc., but I had a mirror smash from falling on the floor. The worst was my entire wardrobe fell over and broke my bed. The wardrobe was really big and heavy and shouldn't have been able to fall forward on its own like that. Scared the shit out of us all from the boom alone. Thought we had a robber up there. A few family members told me they thought I was in my room and were surprised to see I wasn't because they saw my door in the later stage of closing as they went by. As though someone had gone in there and had been closing the door behind them, and a family member saw the last seconds of the door moving to a close. I never witnessed this, but it was unsettling to hear about. I remember that when us kids were left in the house alone, which happened fairly often, we'd hear very audible footsteps and banging coming from the rooms upstairs, but it usually came from my bedroom. I had sleep paralysis a lot when I lived there. I'd scream really loud and freak everyone out. Typical sleep paralysis episodes. I think I'm awake but I can't move and it's like something evil is in the room with me with the intent to kill me and I have to fight it off or I'll die type feeling. If you've never had one, feel lucky. They fucking suck. If I went into detail over what I saw and felt during sleep paralysis, this post would be a lot bigger, so I don't want to. Every now and then a really loud bang would wake me up, as though someone had wrapped their knuckles on something wooden near my head with a lot of force. This has followed me everywhere since but doesn't happen as often. I think it's exploding head syndrome. https://n. Wikipedia. Org. Wiki. Exploding_head_ syndrome, but it's still not a nice way to wake up. Bonus 3 Spooky 5 Me. My stepdad and mum both had the same dream that they were abducted by a UFO. My stepdad was telling my mum about this crazy dream he had that a UFO came and the roof went see-through and he was taken aboard. Mum went pale and said she had the same dream. My younger sisters shared a room and were both freaked out and said that they'd woken up to their blankets on the floor and thought it was ghosts. I didn't have a UFO dream or wake up with my blankets off of me, so heh, I guess my haunted bedroom saved me there. Super bonus story. When I was a young teen, I was at this tiny river, beach with a good friend of mine late at night. Drinking by a little campfire we made because it's Scotland and that's what we do. We were waiting on another friend coming. We were having a laugh talking about shit when we hear these very heavy footsteps come towards us. Cool. We thought. It's the friend we're waiting on, but he never appears. We think he's fucking with us, so we call out his name but no answer. We get up and wander out into the darkness and can't see anyone. Literally seconds have passed. No way in hell anyone was right there then left in that time without us hearing or seeing them. We still think our friend is fucking with us and we decide that he must be hiding a bit further down the trail to get to the river. We actually walked all the way back to the start of the trail, a good quarter-mile back from the river where we meet our friend. Now only just arriving on his push bike with no clue what we're on about when we tell him that was a good joke. I'd swear blind someone was right next to us. We both heard it. Doesn't help that the section of the river we were drinking on has stupid Scottish folk legends about a stupid ghost who haunts it because they drowned. I don't believe the ghost story, but do personally know of people who have actually drowned in the river. I left home a long time ago now and things like that don't happen anymore, except for still having sleep paralysis episodes and a loud bang waking me up from time to time, but by far less than when I lived at home. Surprisingly, I'm actually fairly skeptical about the paranormal. It does interest me, but I think that most things can be explained rationally. Comment from sweetprozac. When I was around 5 or 6, I told my mom an old lady used to come and read me stories when I was in bed every night. According to our next door neighbor, the lady I had described died a few years before we moved into the house. Comment from deleted. When I was 7, my dad had bought a pocket watch that came with its own stand. He put it on top of our TV. Since we didn't have any other clock in the house besides the bedroom just yet, we had just moved in 2 weeks earlier. Me being me, I got up in the middle of the night when everyone was asleep to get a quick late night snack. I sneak halfway across the living room when I noticed that the pocket watch's tick was getting louder and louder. I stopped to inspect it. Didn't seem to be that bad. I ignored it, got my snack, started heading back. Again, I heard the tick of the pocket watch getting louder and louder. I stopped again, then heard the following sung in a song: Mr. Frost is a bad man. Mr. Frost is a snitch. Mr. Frost is a bad man. Beat us within an inch. I bolt to my room, hide under the covers and refuse to come out. Ever since then, I've hated that pocket watch. I've tried many times to search for someone named Mr. Frost in my area and nothing has come up. Comment from mcraamu. In my bedroom growing up, there was a patch on the wall that would softly glow in the dark. It was so faint that it would disappear when I looked directly at it, or got too close. It looked like there was a break in the curtains. But after I stood in front of it, I ruled this to be impossible. There were some nights it didn't glow at all. Comment from Coconutoilforthesoul. I was like 9 years old. I was sleeping in my parents' bed. At that point I think it was a Saturday morning and my dad had gone bike riding with his friends real early and I woke up and got in bed with my mom. I was having a bad dream and I woke up and looked around and went to go pee. When I got back into the bed there was a white pale hand waving at me from behind the closet. I thought I was dreaming, but I was so shocked I couldn't do anything. I kind of put it in the back of my mind until a year later my older cousin said she had seen a hand waving at her behind her mirror when I was at her house. It made me realize I really experienced that and didn't imagine it. Comment from G3istbot. The house I grew up during a large portion of my childhood was built sometime in the 1930s. It was pretty big, which was great for a kid like me who loved to explore. Problem was that all throughout the house I would routinely get this creepy vibe. Like as if someone were watching me. Or this overwhelming feeling that I wasn't safe and needed to leave particular areas. Now, it could have had just been an overactive imagination. Kids are definitely prone to having those. Problem was I wasn't exposed to scary movies or stories as a kid. I think my parents recognized how scared I would get by my own imagination, and couldn't even fathom how bad it would be to actually see or hear something. Still, even as an adult now looking back, there are two particular events which I can't possibly explain as being irrational. Both of them involved the basement, which I'll mention was primarily unfinished. To give a quick layout of it, The basement was accessible through the kitchen or the main hallway, and was adjacent to the side door. It was unfinished, with hard concrete floors, and an area in the back that was mostly dirt. Going down the basement meant you had to take these wooden steps which had probably been there since the 30s. The first incident was on a weekend. My dad and I were sitting in the living room watching NASCAR. And during a commercial break he asked me to get him a beer. Unfortunately for me, he kept his beer down in the basement in this little mini fridge. And I was already kind of scared of going down there. Not wanting to upset him by telling him no, I went for it anyway. Before I even made it to the steps, I was already getting that feeling that I shouldn't go any further, and that I should immediately turn right around. But I kept going on. As I got to the basement steps, that fear continued to grow and grow. You know that feeling you get when you can just tell that someone is staring at you. Like a fifth sense. Your spine gets kind of tingly and you have this overwhelming feeling to look at in the direction. That's what I was experiencing tenfold. When I finally reached the bottom of the steps, I was almost completely paralyzed with fear. I slowly turned my head to the left towards where the open, dirt area was and said, "Hello." As soon as I said that, two red glowing orb things emerged from that dark part. I'd say they were eyes, but I can't be for sure. I didn't study them long enough before I ran up the steps as fast as I could. My dad must have heard my running and met me in the hallway, and asked what was going on. I told him about what I saw, and he immediately headed down there. I think he might have thought it was an animal or something. But after a few minutes he emerged with a beer in hand and telling me it was nothing. The second event took place a year, maybe a year and a half later. It was during the summer, and my family and I were outside. Dad, Mom, younger brother, and myself. I had to use the bathroom and headed inside using the front door, as I had refused to use the side door since that previous event. When I went to go back outside, though, I had the thought I'd try and be brave and face my fear. I headed towards the side door, sat at the top of the basement steps, and waited. It didn't take long for me to get those same feelings all over again. I shouldn't be there. Something was watching me. I needed to leave immediately. I was truly tired of the fear though. I wanted to be brave and face whatever threat was down there. So I stayed. It didn't take long for me to run though, because as soon as I had made that determination, I saw a shadow paint across the wall opposite of the handrail. It was human, looked male, seemed extremely large, no real fine details. Again, not enough time, as I immediately bolted out the door. I told my dad about it. This time he seemed a bit more concerned. I didn't follow him into the house, but I did hear him racking his gun before he descended down. Just like last time though, he emerged. Nothing to be found. There were other events, but those were the two primary ones. I still have nightmares about that place too. They are always so odd too. Before, they involved me being inside the house already and going down to the basement to face whatever was down there. That's ended though, and now I'm always outside the house. The weather is odd, like it's not sure if it wants to be night or daytime. I have this feeling like I need to go in the house and explore it further. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Please remember to like, comment and subscribe. Please remember to like, comment and subscribe.